Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
I'm choosing to ignore the cuts and bumps and bruises. I'm cruising through these haters, leave them looking stupid. They foolish if they think they'll ever hear my conclusion. I'm through with all these part-timers and their excuses. I'm bruising eagles left and right every time I do this. I'm shooting for the top, no I'll never settle what you did. The future's in my hands, my grip will never lose it. My crew is ready to obtain the absolution, removing any doubt that we was ever fooling.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another kick-ass episode of Still Toking With. I hope by now you know who I am. If not, well, that's me. Real quick before we get started, we want to send thoughts and prayers to Mr. Jeff Holman, our co-host, who couldn't make it this evening. He had to put down one of his fur babies today, so we want to make sure that he understands that we're thinking about him tonight. But the show must go on, and there he is in the chat. You don't have to apologize. It's totally understandable, bro. Anyway, the man, the myth, the Flash himself, Mr. Jeffrey Mark.
Hello, everybody. And Jeff, I've been praying for you, and we love you, and we get it. We get it. So we're glad to see you here. We've got what looks like to be one of the more incredible shows we're ever going to do, because we've got two guests who have enough stories to probably fill 7 or 8 hours. But we're going to punch in as much of it as we can in this hour. These are gentlemen, one of whom, golly, how do you introduce these guys?
Well, you say one is a New York Times best-selling author, and the other is a former CIA operative.
Okay,
together,
one of them is a New York Times best-selling author, and the other one worked for the government doing spooky things. And we're very happy to have on the show the author, and he's more than an author. He's got so much going on. Ralph Pezzullo and Robert Tosh. We're going to call him Tosh. Is it Plumlee? Is that the pronunciation?
Right, you got it. Yeah, Plumlee.
Here are the boys. We're so happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great to meet you both.
Well, thanks
pleasure.
for
Pleasure.
I know Tom.
I've been looking forward to this show.
Me too.
You know, we're here, folks, because the two of them came together and created a novel. The novel is called Deep Cover, Shallow Graves. And if the name doesn't send chills down your spine, well, then you're fucking heartless. I'm just going to put it there. You're heartless. It's that simple. Because when I saw it, it sent chills down my spine. So, real quick, Ralph.
Yes.
How did this project come about?
Well, it all started with an actor friend of ours who is a big JFK, assassination aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having lunch one day, and he started to tell me about Tosh and how Tosh was a CIA pilot and had been in Dealey Plaza the day Kennedy was shot. And I said, "Wow, I want to meet this guy. I want to talk to him." And so we arranged to meet, and over weeks of conversation, we decided, we should write a book together, because Tosh has had like just an amazing career, starting when he was a teenager. When he was flying guns to Fidel Castro in the mountains of Cuba, and he's in his 80s now, and he's still doing it. So, and what's interesting about Tosh is that he was a CIA cutout. So a CIA cutout is somebody who is hired through cutout companies kind of to disguise the fact that he's actually working for the government. So it's deep cover type of thing. You won't find him listed in the CIA personnel chart,
The database or anything.
Yeah, he's a deep cover guy, so that they can deny that they even know him, which they still do.
Do we get to ask the name of the actor friend who put you together?
Yeah, Louis Bertham.
Good friend. Good friend.
He was in Westworld. He's in a series now that's on Netflix. I'm sorry that I can't remember the name right now, but you would recognize him. He's a working actor. He's been in dozens of films and TV shows. Yeah, great guy. Great guy.
Yeah. Lou and I got together by accident. I was interviewed on another deal when some documents were released, and my name was released in some of those documents. Years ago, we used to make sure that our names didn't get in any documents or released documents. We used to, I say we, I'm speaking the plural, but we, operatives, or whatever you want to call us, used to make sure that we protect the operation at all costs. That meant if you had to lie to your mother about what you were doing, you'd lie to your mother. There was one of the days when the U.S. government could do absolutely no wrong, and that was the days when the government and the media would tell you something and you could take it to the bank. Those days have changed. But in our particular day and age, we did not want the publicity. In fact, we would go out of our way to protect each other by whatever means was necessary to make sure that our operations and our stories did not get exposed to, at that time, Walter Cronkite and CBS and all the great reporters of that particular time. I was photographed numerous times inside Cuba, on top of a tank one time, and another time having lunch with Fidel Castro in the mountains of Sierra Madre. Life magazine photographed these photographs, and 1957, and again in 1959. At that point in time, we made a special point to make sure that we didn't get exposed. When the operation about JFK come along, we sort of knew some of the things that were going on in that particular time, but we weren't privy to all the planning and all the other stuff. So I don't want to get to rambling here. I know we have a time element.
No, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
I have personal friends who are Cuban, kind of well-known Cubans.
Right.
What moved you, Tosh, to want to help Castro? Because there was the Batista Revolution in the 30s, and now Castro came along. What attracted you to him? Like, why did you think he was the guy?
It wasn't that I was attracted to him. I run away from home when I was 14 years old and joined the 49th Armored Division, Texas National Guard at Dallas Love Field. And then from there, I switched over when I was 16, and I switched over into the regular Army. Then, while I was in the regular Army at Fort Bliss, I was in a special operations group, and we were sent to specialized training in a place called later called Illusionary Warfare Training. This was back in the days when the Army was setting up special ops and all this kind of stuff. This was before the Green Berets was even started, and this was back even before the term special ops were used. So what they had done in those particular years in 54, they had went out and recruited a lot of juvenile delinquents that were bound for prison, and I was one of them out of Dallas, Texas. And I was raised during the war years, and I was gun-ho, and I wanted to be military. And I hung out with guys from the 8th Air Force that had flown over Germany and heard all their stories and all that. So then I wanted to become a pilot, and I became a pilot. But meanwhile, I run away from home, joined the Army at 14 years old, the National Guard, used that experience, transferred into the regular Army in 1954. You ask about Castro. At that point in time, Castro was in jail. Nobody knew what they used to pronounce his name as Castroil, and that kind of a situation. Nobody knew who this guy was. I didn't go and follow him. The unit that I was with was eventually transferred down to Miami, Florida, into a unit, and this was before the unit was known as JM Wave was even formed. So we had other units, and we started working with a lot of the Cubans on supplying guns and ammunition to a radical, to a Cuban, to an unknown Cuban. It happened to be running around the Sierra Madre. He had just come in on a boat with a bunch of other guys and shot up a barracks. And this was in 54, 55. So that was my first exposure to Cubans, was going into Miami. And then running, when you say CIA, at that point, that was the beginning of the CIA infiltrating into our units and to our military units. Or reverse it. Either we were infiltrated into the CIA's programs, which was very secret in those days. This was in the late 50s, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, going all the way up in to the Batista era. So we were running around inside Cuba dodging Batista while we were giving Band-Aids and arms to a rebel that had just landed on the beaches, shot up the barracks, in the Makata barracks, and we were starting to supply him with limited Band-Aids, medical supplies, a little bit of food, sea rations from World War II, very few guns, old worn out, bored out M1s. No, there wasn't anything as an M16, stuff like that. So 45s and things like that, things that were stolen from U.S. National Guard armories in the United States by operations of the CIA at that point, which was a new organization, if you remember.
So Tosh, just 1 second. I want to make something clear for our friends who are watching and listening. So you're saying all of this, the limited supplies and what you were doing, the United States government undercover wanted this to happen. They were
actually flying both sides. So
Right.
we were arming Batista, and we were also arming the rebels. So we were sort of hedging our bets in terms of like who would win.
Right. See, now at that point, they put me through the GI Bill, and that's how I ended up getting my pilot's license at that young age. And so eventually I went down to Miami and finished up flight training down there. But in the process, we had a pact. The politics of it, I don't know. Wouldn't care at that time. But the Pan American Treaty was where we had to supply arms and ammunition to Batista according to our treaties. At the same time, we were going through Marathon Key, Florida, and Pahokee and Belgrades and all these places down in Tampa, and we were supplying a new rebel that had just got out of jail in Mexico, shot up the Macada barracks in 54, 55, and was running in raids and shooting up Batista's troopers, and we were flying guns to this rebel. At the same time, we were giving tanks and airplanes and ammunition to Batista, according to our treaties.
So may I ask?
We were playing both sides against the middle in those years.
Right. And well told. Thank you.
Mhm.
So from 1959 to 1962, so it's 3 years there.
Yeah.
How did things go so wrong between the American government and Cuba? Because we went from being a friend and supplying to Castro and the Cuban Missile Crisis and Russia. How did we lose his goodwill?
All right. Now this is my
Well, a lot of it,
life that I lived this particular moment that I'm going to tell you. You asked me a very important question here. See if I got this right, Ralph. You correct me if I'm going off. All right. When Batista came into power in 1959, we were
Castro came into power in 50.
right. We were supporting Fidel Castro, starting to support him. We had already supported him with guns and ammunition. We helped the M26-7 overthrow Batista. Then Castro got invited to the United States, and he came up to New York, and our politicians treated him like crap, even to the point to where his people went into, I forget what hotel it was in New York, and they end up cutting up chickens and throwing chickens, which is a very thing the Cubans do when they're dissatisfied with you. So we did not give him agricultural reform. He wanted tractors. He wanted us to help him reform on agriculture. He had certain things he wanted to work with the United States. And we basically, pardon my French, we shit in his mess kit. That's what happened. He goes back to the United States, and then that was the beginning of him making his deal with Russia.
Yeah, well, this is, my dad was the ambassador to Nicaragua when Somoza fell.
Right.
And Sandinistas took over. And the takeover of Castro and his movement is similar to that, right? So he was a guy in the mountains, kind of a legendary figure, with support, but not a huge amount of support. But Batista army was so bad and so corrupt, like akin to Somoza in Nicaragua, it basically like fell apart, and nobody in the country was ever loyal to him. And Castro sort of took that moment. He was a very charismatic, dramatic figure to declare himself like the leader of the revolution, right? But nobody, even though the CIA had been helping him out with medical supplies and military supplies and that Tosh was participating in, nobody really knew that much about him. Was he claimed he was a Democrat and he wanted free elections. But then as soon as he came into power, he postponed elections. So everybody in the United States was kind of looking at this guy like, is he going to work with us? Can we trust him? Is he a communist? And same thing happened when the Sandinistas came into power in Nicaragua. And that's when sort of the trouble started, because he immediately started expropriating a lot of the sugar plantations and companies. He kicked out a lot of American companies. And suddenly this Cuban exile group grew in Miami and South Florida. And they were all very anti-Castro because they felt that businesses that their parents and grandparents had established were suddenly taken away from them. So there was this growing anti-Castro sentiment. And then he started to, as Tosh said, we weren't particularly politically sensitive to him. And he started to look towards the Soviet Union at the time for more material support. And that led to all the problems of the early 60s.
Now, let me back up here too. What Ralph said, that came about. My point of view, I was privileged enough to be in Castro's camp, taken to Castro's camp. I had a code name down there, which the Cubans give me, was known as Zapata, because I had to crash land an airplane in the Zapata swamps. Okay, so the Cubans, I lost my shoes. So Velma Espin, who later became Deborah, codename, who later married Raul Castro, she and a friend of mine by the name of Sergio got me out of the swamps to Fidel's camp. Now, here's my opinion at that point about Castro. Castro gave me a fatigue hack to keep the mosquitoes and the bugs off my face and stuff. I didn't know who he was. Nobody knew who he was at that time except the rebels, the Cuban rebels. I made a lot of good friends down there at that particular time. I was known as the gringo, the cowboy, all kinds of Zapata, the guy with no shoes, the guy with no brains, all kinds of. I was 17 or 18 years old, somewhere along in there. So 19, 20, whatever. So my view at that point was this man was a patriot. In other words, communism was the word in those years. In other words, if you did one crazy thing, you were a communist. I mean, the word was like the same as what we call someone an asshole nowadays. We used to call them communists. Like back in, and you guys are old enough to know what I'm talking about, all of us here. So we were fighting communism in those days. My viewpoint at that particular time in those jungles with Castro at that time was that he was not a communist. Now, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But the things that he wanted to do for his people and the things that he had against the mafia and organized crime that had moved into the casinos, taking over the Havana by building great big skyscrapers and corruption and the prostitution that was going on in Havana. Castro was very against that, more than he was against the political ramifications of the United States and what the United States was doing politically. In those days, we didn't get involved in the politics, still don't, try not to. But our view at that point is that the Cubans set up their own deal and started in, which led to the Bay of Pigs. And, it was all for democracy. It was all for freedom. It was all for this. CIA was in the middle of all this, playing both sides on the middle. Am I right? Am I going off base here, Ralph?
Yeah. Look, I don't think the point is, your personal politics in terms of Castro. It's just that, the perception in the United States after he became friendly with Khrushchev was that he was, and he, at a certain point, he declared himself a communist. And therefore, he became, definitely an enemy of the CIA. And they started plotting against them. And they started recruiting these exiles in Miami who hated Castro because he had thrown them and their companies out of Cuba. We had a new president who was just elected, who was John F. Kennedy. And all this sort of planning for an Cuban exile invasion of Cuba had already started. When Kennedy came into power, he was sort of, presented with this, like, we're going to do this. We've got it all set up. You just have to approve it, which led to the Bay of Pigs, which led to the Cuban Missile Crisis, and, ended up being a huge black eye for the Kennedy administration and the United States.
In those early days, I'm going to add this in there. In those early days, in a military environment, we didn't have politics infiltrating our units. We had patriotism. We had young kids. We come out of a World War II situation. If you dropped the American flag on the floor, and someone would kick your ass. That was our attitude in those years. So communism came on the scene and fighting and so on like that. But as far as Cuba is concerned, Cuba, in my opinion, in those days, did not want to be forced into a communist bloc. That's my opinion. From what I observed from down in there. What came on after all that, as history is now recorded, is another story entirely in itself. But there was units in those early years I'm talking about from like 55, 56, 57, 58, up until 59. And then I hinge my thoughts on this. When he came to the United States and our politics started infiltrating into foreign policy and communism and campaign contributions and gun running and even drug running in those early days, that it was all festering right there out of Cuba. The Cubans really, in my opinion, was dedicated to their country at that point in time.
Well,
When we got started, our politics changing. I'm going to right here.
Look, it was a volatile situation.
It was very volatile.
There were people on both sides. I think the point is that Tosh was a kid from a broken family who was recruited into this intelligence unit. Another guy who was in a similar circumstance was Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
He also came from Dallas. Grew up in Dallas.
Which would go into, I'm sure,
all trained together. They knew each other. So the idea was to get these young patriotic guys who were, who had skills. And in Tosh's case, it was a pilot. In Lee Harvey Oswald's case, it was languages. He was very good with languages. And they trained them and they used them. And a lot of times these guys didn't understand the broader politics. They didn't really understand, who they were working for directly. They were just said, like this plane here at this airport, and it's filled with guns, or go to this National Armory in Ohio, and you'll find a plane that's filled with weapons, and you're going to fly it to Cuba and drop it off at this location in the mountains. And they were very effective, And then if they were picked up, it's like, well, we don't know who these guys are. Just some crazy kid working for some funky airline that that has nothing to do with us. So everything was done under layers of disinformation, right? So that they could
plausible deniability.
Exactly, and so guys like Tosh, it was sort of mission to mission, right? And there was never an explanation. There was never they were never given context. They were just told, go here, pick up this plane, do this, do this, do this.
These two men have written a wonderful book. I want to mention one more time, Deep Cover, Shallow Graves. Here's the problem. And I think Ben and I have the same thing. There's so much we would like to ask you, but you're here to sell your book.
You know what? This is the Plumlee and Pezzullo show right now, man. I'm letting the two of them, and these are the best kind of shows because we don't really have to ask our questions. You guys are covering the basis of all those questions just by conversing back and forth.
It goes back to sometimes you don't want to know the things you know.
That is true.
Let's move the timeline ahead 2 years or a year and a half.
Sure.
Why in the year of 2025 do we still not know for sure? I'm talking we meaning the American public.
Right.
What the fuck happened when President Kennedy got assassinated?
I was going to go there because he brought up Lee Harvey Oswald being recruited, and I was going to say, I fucking knew it.
Because I know these guys know the answer.
Yeah, the biggest complex disinformation campaign ever launched on the American people.
You see what you got us into, Ralph?
I think if you really get into it, you see that it was a coup d'etat, and the elements of the military and the CIA were involved. It was the people at the highest levels of our government were aware of it. It had to do with a number of things, including the fact that after the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy was trying to reach a rapprochement with the Soviet Union through non-official channels, back channels. And he was doing the same with Castro, which Tosh was involved in, trying to reach a rapprochement with Castro through an NBC reporter named Lisa Howard, who Tosh was flying.
Personal friend.
So the CIA was hearing all this stuff. Also, Kennedy did not want to get us involved in Vietnam, and the military industrial complex and the military wanted that war badly. And a combination of factors, they decided this guy we can't trust him. He's talking secretly to the Soviet Union. He's talking secretly to Castro. He's a danger to the United States. And so they pulled off this very elaborate operation and very elaborate disinformation campaign with the Warren Commission report and so on. I mean, when you think back, there was never a criminal investigation of the assassination. It was a political investigation. It was a group of, and they decided right away. I mean, obviously they had picked out Lee Harvey Oswald to be the fall guy. And he was not that at all. He was a patriot. Tosh knew him and trained with him. They were able to.
Let me jump in here.
I think over time, more and more people have asked questions. And at this point, I think there's something like less than 20% of the American public believes the Warren Commission report. But it's taken 60 years.
Right.
As far as the JFK is concerned, there's 1,000 other ops that were ongoing at that time. JFK and the assassination of JFK was only one operation. Very few people, I'm talking about operatives, know what went on during those 5 or 6 days. I happen to be one of them. I was going to write a book about Cuba, the Black Knights of Cuba. That put me at odds with the CIA. Because of methods and procedures. So therefore, Plumlee has to be character assassinated. He has to be defused. He has to be stopped. Now, this was way back before Deep Cover, Shallow Graves. This was the Black Knights of Cuba, talking mainly about Castro's revolution and what we were doing with guns and ammunition and drugs and guns and which come first, the chicken or the egg, and blah, blah, blah. A lot of us guys didn't care what in the hell we were doing, because in those days, we knew damn well we were doing something for our government. And our government in those years, according to a lot of people, could do absolutely no wrong. If you worked for the government, you were a patriot. And so that was sort of the premise in those years. That all went to hell, as we know, as history shows, which Ralph was just bringing up to that. The people that was involved in those operations started getting systematically character assassinated and eliminated one by one by one. Anybody that knew anything at all about the inner workings of the CIA and their mafia connections at that particular time, and the gambling and all the things that was going on between Cuba and the United States, that's what led up to JFK being killed. When he said about Vietnam, when I come back from this meeting, am I right, Ralph? Things are going to change. Everybody, no more troops going to Vietnam. We've lost too many men there. We're not going to continue. Shortly after that, within 1 week, he came back in a mahogany coffin at Andrews Air Force Base, and he was dead. Okay, he started to change policy. Now, where does Cuba fit in all this? This is Vietnam. This is the Tonkin Bay, the Gulf Bay, and all this kind of stuff. Ralph's father, he knows all about all that. That's a whole new era. When people like me start coming up and bringing back those old family jewels and tickling those jewels, they don't like that. So therefore, people like me have to be character assassinated. We don't exist. We're liars. We're no good. We wasn't there. We change our stories. We do all this and so on like that. It's not going to happen. You can't get this story into the public domain. It's been 60 something years. Everybody's dying off. I'm the last of that breed, one of the last of that very breed. I'm coming now and say, okay, we're going to write a book with a very established author here. I'm not a writer. I'm a pilot. You know, I pilot here, I pilot there, I pilot wherever the hell you wanted it piled. And I've got a lot of credentials on the background of doing that. And I've lost a lot of good friends doing that. And I've worked for a lot of cutout companies, Intermountain Aviation, Air America, on down the road, Riddle, Regina, all of them. All these airlines that I worked for were not even known about until they started the investigations that started in '76, mainly with Frank Church's investigation. And also the organized crime people that we messed around with, my good friend Johnny Rosselli, who ended up in a drum in Biscayne Bay, chopped up in many pieces. What was all that about? It was about what we're talking about right now. It started with Cuba. That ended up getting a man killed, President of the United States killed. It ended up a coup being formed on this country that nobody even knows about today, and we're still not allowed to talk about it. So now we're going to write a book. We're going to say, okay, let's take this book, which was going to be fiction because the CIA did not want these kind of stories coming out because of methods and procedures. Am I talking out of school, Ralph?
Nope.
All right. They didn't want this out here. So we said, okay, let's revive this. Bill, Hertham, our friend, he got with me, he says, Tosh, you got to write this book. You got to finish this book. You got to get your story out there. I said, hell, they ain't going to let this story go out there. So what are we going to do? We're going to write episodes. This little thing, we're going to write a book that's entertaining. We're going to write a book that has a lot of covert stuff in there. We're going to tie a lot of loose ends together with names, dates, times, motive, opportunity. Am I right, Ralph?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what this book that we're now getting ready to go promote is about. It's about deep cover, shallow graves. I was in the deepest damn cover through two things in my life was JFK. Who killed him? Why did they kill him? How in the hell did I get involved in that? I was involved in that in Castro Revolution. I've got a lot of good friends, pictures of me and all that on top of a tank coming in. What the hell is the CIA doing on top of a tank in 1959
With Che Guevara.
in Santa Clara, Cuba? What the hell is he doing up there? What is this same CIA guy who alleges he's a CIA guy? What's he doing sitting, squatting down and eating pastors at camp with a bunch of damn guns in Cuba and radical rebels in Nicaragua before the La Pinka bombing and a bunch of journalists got killed? I could rattle on and rattle on and rattle on, but that's what this book is about. We're taking episodes. We're taking comical episodes about a day of laying on a runway, watching B-17s come over, 7 years old, watching B-17s and laughing. I mean, there's stories. We're taking these stories and bringing them to life and how they fit into our politics and showing the corruption and how it feeded into our organization over 60-something years.
Yeah.
And why it had to be covered. So, this man on your right on the bottom of the screen, Ralph, he probably knows more about this operation than I do, and I was part of it.
Ralph, who's your publisher?
Trinde.
Now,
publishers like us to say that. That's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, and they're great because they're one of the few publishers that will publish books like this.
Yeah, and that's Chris.
A lot of publishers will say yes, and then when you turn in the manuscript, their lawyers go through it and they start pulling stuff out. But Trinde doesn't like that. So,
is your book already on sale, or is it about?
No, we're about a month away from going on sale. We're just sort of finishing it up now, going through the final editing and so on. But I wanted to point out that one very interesting element of this that I think readers will be particularly interested in is that Tosh flew into Dallas the day before President Kennedy's assassination. He was part of what the Pentagon called an abort team. Tosh didn't really know. None of these guys. Well, Tosh certainly. He was a co-pilot. He didn't know what was going on. But on the plane were people like E. Howard Hunt, Johnny Roselli, a number of Cuban operatives that he was familiar with, and some people he didn't even know who they were. And they landed in Dallas on the day of the 22nd, the morning of the 22nd. And Johnny Roselli and some of the guys took off in a car. And Tosh ended up going with a friend of his who was another CIA cutout to be part of an abort team on the South Knoll of Daley Plaza. Okay, so not across from the grassy knoll, and they were sent there to look for shooters, right? And they're looking around. They go through the parking lot. There's a parking lot above it, and they don't know what's hatching, right? And when Tosh looks down at the plaza, he sees all these people that he knows, like different CIA operatives.
Rip Robinson.
He sees Lee Harvey Oswald in the doorway of the book depository building, and they're just kind of wondering, like, what the hell's going on here, right? And then the limousine comes around. It turns onto goes in front of the Daley Plaza, turns onto Elm Street, and some shots ring out. And Tosh and his friend feel a bullet come right over the tops of their heads, originating from the parking lot behind them that they had just been through. And then all hell breaks out, right? Everybody goes nuts. Tosh and his friend go, we better get the hell out of here. Something's really wrong. And Tosh, the next day, so Tosh flies the team back to Florida. The next day, the Denver police and FBI show up to arrest him for passing a bad check in Colorado, which, by the way, wasn't even signed by Tosh, right? Tosh doesn't know what the hell's going on. But all of these guys who were cutouts, secret operatives, they realized that they were playing a part in an operation that went really bad. Right?
There'd been a lot of rumors that Kennedy was going to be hit. And come on, the Army guy.
Well, let me just finish this part. So he goes to Colorado, right? He's arrested. The judge throws him in jail with no evidence. Basically said, you stay in a reformatory. He doesn't even put him in a jail. Colorado State Reformatory with a bunch of teenagers. Stay there until you grow up.
Yeah, indefinite sentence.
What does that mean? You're not even charged with anything. And he's put in a cell with a convicted murderer. And he finds out, because Tosh is a character and he's got like all these great stories and so on. So he charms the hell out of this convicted murderer. And the murderer confesses to him, I was put in the cell to kill you.
And also to the warden of
you. And so I'm not going to do it. And he ended up, that murder guy, Jerry Stilley, I mean, you can look him up. He ended up getting killed. And the rumor is he got killed because he didn't do what he was supposed to do, which was to kill
his appeal was denied. He was taken out of Denver County Jail back to Canyon City, and later he was dead.
Yeah.
And the rumor was he didn't fulfill his contract in the Denver County Jail by taking out a guy by the name of Plumlee. But anyway,
the point is that they were.
Hold your thought for 1 second. Yeah. Ben, you froze. Our friends heard everything, so don't worry about it.
Okay. So the point is that, all these different people who were playing parts in this big jigsaw drama that they put together, right, which was to kill the president, right? These people, none of them knew very few of them knew the whole story. They were just playing little parts, but all of them had to be eliminated. And they went about either scaring the hell out of them or eliminating them. Now, Tosh was lucky. He managed to get out of it. But, and then they put together the Warren Report, right? And so Tosh was not interviewed. None of the other cutouts were interviewed. And they had a narrative that was already formed. Actually, 2 days after the assassination, President Johnson met with J. Edgar Hoover. They were neighbors, and they put together. They wrote out the plan. This was just released in the recent release of JFK documents, and it basically says Lee Harvey Oswald. We're going to show that Lee Harvey Oswald was the sole killer, not part of any conspiracy. That the president, that he fired 3 shots, 2 of them hit the president and killed him, 1 of them missed, and that Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald completely acting on his own. And he wasn't part of any group or conspiracy. And this was the narrative that they tried very hard to sell to the public. But there were so many holes in it over the years that the public were like, well, the gun was a piece of junk. It couldn't hit the side of a barn. It's impossible to
that gets into the conspiracy, and that's JFK.
Yeah.
And be talked to about what Ralph is bringing out, theory after theory after theory. This happened, that happened. This guy, 21 guys were shooting in the plaza. Everybody was jumping from airplanes. A guy told me, he says, "I'll kill you, Tosh, if you don't confirm that my dad was in a blimp and he watched Kennedy get killed." Wow, man, that's a new theory to me. I mean, a blimp driving over Dealey Plaza and your daddy was up there and he shot Kennedy? Yeah, that's what my dad told me. And you're calling my dad a liar?
I think the point is that when the government goes to so much length to misinform, lie to the American people, let's put it that way.
Essence of time.
It undercuts everything. Right. So people you have investigators who start looking into this and saying, well, this couldn't have happened. This couldn't have happened. What about this? What about that? And then the government hires people and reporters and writers to sell the official narrative and other books. You create this whole debate, and it takes years to kind of unravel all this. And
Ralph, I'd like an opinion.
Yeah.
Do you believe that President Johnson knew about this beforehand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'd like another opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
How did someone hang on, Tosh. Hang on 1 second. How did someone like J. Edgar Hoover, a gay man with a lover, Clyde Tolson, who was also a cross-dresser, how did he grab a hold of the FBI and blackmail so many hundreds of people with their personal lives, and yet in his lifetime he was never outed? How did that happen?
Well, because as you answered the question, because instead of investigating crime in the United States, instead of going against the mafia, which was the biggest criminal organization in the United States at the time, he was blackmailing people, and the mafia knew his secret. They had pictures of him in his dress. I think he was known as Mary. And he used to love, him and Clive Tolson used to love to gamble. They'd go to Pimlico racetrack every afternoon, and the mob would cover all their bets. So they knew they had J. Edgar Hoover in their pocket. And meanwhile, he was blackmailing everybody else. He was wiretapping the Kennedy brothers. He was wiretapping Marilyn Monroe, et cetera, et cetera.
Dorothy Kilgallen.
All
of those women.
Everybody was afraid of him. And he and LBJ were a weird couple, but very close friends. They lived across the street from one another. They were both kind of scoundrels.
Yes.
Let me back up here. We're going into rabbit holes on conspiracy theories. Not knocking anything, but this happens. It does not matter what happened. It will all go back to that day Who killed JFK and why? Bingo. That's bullshit, in my opinion. I got to back up here, and for the sake of your listeners, I don't know where they are or how many you've got.
Well,
Back to the beginning. Why in the hell were we there? Who sent us there? Why did they send us there? What was the reason they sent us to Dealey Plaza specifically? How did they have this information? Who had this information? What did they do with this information? These are the questions that are answered in this book. Bingo. Now I'll start off like this. We got there because the Pentagon got information of a pending hit on a president.
mm-hmm.
And that came from an Army guy out of Switzerland and other people out of Chicago and Tampa and organized crime through Johnny Rosselli's organization out of Chicago. So there was all kinds of rumors that Kennedy was going to be taken out. The Pentagon finally got enough direct information to know where the place was. First off, it was supposed to be Austin, Texas. Second, Chicago, and then finally Dallas. We were dispatched from the Pentagon to Dallas to abort, to stop a pending hit on the President of the United States. That's what's in the book that Ralph is writing. He is trying to take my story, as some say, my bullshit, and put it down factually and back it up with enough documentation of preponderance of the evidence so that we can put this crazy theory out about JFK to the general public after 60-something years from an old guy that's 88 years old, that's on his last throws, his last run, his last flight, going for the great check ride in the sky, and he's telling you a crazy damn story that he's been character assassinated for 60 years by the U.S. federal government. For what reason? To cover up that we were involved and had prior knowledge that JFK was going to be killed in Dallas, Texas. Now, why were we sent there? We were sent there to be spotters, to locate and see if we could locate a team, because we knew a team had been dispatched. We had to find that team and take them out. That don't mean shoot them. If you shot them, you'd kill people all over the plaza. You had to get close to them and bump them and knock them and find out who they were. There was one guy sitting at the edge of a road deal, the umbrella man, and all these crazy theories, signals, and bullshit. Here's a guy sitting 6 foot from the president, and he looks suspicious. And the guy that was on my plane by the name of Gator, who has a finger missing, and you can see it in the photo, sitting down with a walkie-talkie in the back of his deal, and our communications was all messed up. We couldn't talk to him. He was going to take that guy out. He thought he was close enough to shoot the president. He sat down next to him. There's a picture of all this. He's walking away. The antenna's in the back of his pocket. What in the hell is he doing there with a radio, a Motorola, by the way? And how come those red crystals had been changed so that we from the north side could not communicate with the guys on the south side? Why was those Motorola's changed? This is what the Warren Commission did not want to hear. This is why a lot of my friends have been assassinated, character-wise, and actually outright assassinated, because they know this story. I'm 88 years old. They say, well, hell, Plumlee's going to die. What the hell was a CIA guy doing on top of a damn Sherman tank, and how the hell did that Sherman tank get to Cuba in the first place? What the hell is he doing in 1959 sitting on top of a tank with corporal stripes on his shoulder? Life magazine took the picture, Hall. Plumlee has been said he changes his story like he changes his shorts. I've never changed my story. If I
Or
could
his
tell
shorts.
this kind of a story, I won't tell it.
Sorry.
All right. Now, I get a little uptight when I do these kind of interviews.
No, and it shows the
Ralph
passion.
understands this.
Yeah.
Ralph is a one hell of, the reason I decided, with the help of Lou Hertham, to go with this writer is because I've read his stuff. And I honestly believe he's the only guy that can get deep enough into me to understand what in the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, for our friends who are watching, starting with Jawbreaker back in 1994, Ralph has written incredible books.
Okay.
Incredible books.
Who
Ralph
to bring out, what the hell is deep cover, shallow graves? What the hell is it? It's one. I told Ralph when we started this, it doesn't matter how many ops we cover. It doesn't matter how many operations I've been in, including Operation 40. I was a member of Ops 40. You guys might know what Ops 40 is or was. Who was a member of Op 40? Who was in Dallas that day? I've spotted them. I've told the federal government. In other words, why is it so important for the FBI through J. Edgar Hoover to character assassinate me and other operatives that was active in those years? Why do they do that? Why to this day do they still character assassinate those guys, some of them dead and gone? Why does our government today, and Trump says he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Look, he is no different than bullshit from the rest of these presidents. Nobody wants to get into JFK because of what it will expose. What was going on in the 60s? What was going on with LBJ? What was going on with campaign contributions? What kind of influence did the mafia have in our controlling of our politics in those years? How come mafia killed each other? Sam Giancana, Johnny Rosselli, within a year of each other, because they were testifying that we were trying to take out Castro. Wait a minute, this is all connected. And to this day, our government is going to make damn sure people like me do not live long enough to confirm and get documentation that will confirm this. Now, here's another thing. I'm on a roll.
I see that.
Here's another thing. If I lied to two separate committees, the Church Committee, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and the Senate Intelligence Committee, and also to Senator Gary Hart, who forwarded all that information to those committees, and they called me into Washington, and I raised my right hand, and I swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so to speak, to those committees, Senate Intelligence, Senate Foreign Relations, and the Church Committee, and they classified it top secret, committee sensitive. I started talking about it. What about this Section 501, that if you lie to a federal officer, you're going to get charged? I've testified to 4 committees and told them what we're talking about here. I saw a man get his head blown off. On the president of the United States, get his head blown off. Mr. Senator, I'll look you eyeball to eyeball and I'll say, I saw that. I was there that day. This is what I did. This is what we did. We stole arms from National Guard armies and we shipped them to Castro. In other words, and at the same time, you were supporting Batista. Okay, let's get into Vietnam. What the fuck went on in Vietnam? Same kind of bullshit. Ralph knows about this. So now we have a platform. We got people, I don't know anything about your program, but I do know this. I'm talking. I have been warned recently. I used to post on Facebook. I got thrown off Facebook because I'm too political. I'm a radical. I am not creditable by my own sources. You damn right. We used to make sure that they did not know a damn thing about what we were doing. We discredited ourselves for the sole reason we did not want to go and stand in front of a damn committee, whether it be the Warren Committee, and say, yeah, I saw this man get his head blown off, and they sent me here from the Pentagon to make sure that we could stop it. Oh, yeah, okay, believe me. Well, where's your documentation? Oh, well, let me write it up here for you. Let me write all this up here. Make sure we get it, and we'll get it out there to the public domain so we all know what happened to JFK.
Yeah,
We are starting to run out of time, and I want to ask about one small piece of all of this.
Sure.
This is something Dan Rather brought up, and I trust Dan.
Right.
He's a good man.
Yeah.
How in the hell so a president's been assassinated, they blame it on the man they blame it on, and they're transferring him. How does just some guy like Jack Ruby walk in when everybody else has to have badges and bang, and like he should never have been able to get within 5 miles of that.
Well, let me tell you one thing real fast. I know what essence of time, we're running out of time. The Dallas Red Squad was as crooked as a $3 bill. That was an intelligence unit. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. Some of your listeners out there know all about the Dallas Red Squad. Tippit, Austin's Barbecue, everybody ganging around. Dallas had a movement. Dallas was corrupt. Dallas was on the take. Dallas Mafia was involved. Heavy. If you look at the people that was there when Lee Harvey Oswald was shot by Ruby, how many was on the Dallas Red Squad? No one wants to go there. Right now, I'm asking your readers out there, just researchers, go and find out who was in that room when Lee Harvey Oswald got the gun, Ruby put it in his gut. How many were members of the Red Squad?
Yeah, well, when Oswald was
where this information came from, how did they get it?
Yeah.
How
When
did
Oswald was arrested, he said, you know, what is it? He didn't even know why he was arrested. He's like, what's this about? They said, well, you killed the president. He's like, what? No, I didn't kill the president. I mean, Oswald, Tosh knew Oswald.
He was my friend.
Oswald was a patriot.
We chose
he had gone into Russia.
Warfare that they went out of their way over the years. It's just now come to the surface that it actually existed. Anyway, we're getting all
he defected. He defected. He went to Russia. He learned Russian. They taught him how to speak Russian. It was all part of a CIA.
It was all part of a program.
Yeah.
This was all. I mean,
I think the big point here that
they told me that I would never get out of jail if I didn't shut up talking about JFK. There was a judge, Feinsilver, Denver, Colorado, that sent me indefinite to the Colorado State Reformatory until I grew up on a $50 check that they had extradited me all the way from Miami, Florida to Denver, Colorado, and put me in jail with Jerry Stilley, a convicted murderer that was on an appeal from Canyon City. And he turned out to be my friend and told me he was supposed to take me out. And they told me that if I did not stop talking about the JFK, I would never get out of jail. And Judge Feinsilver sentenced me to an indefinite stay in the Colorado State Reformatory. And I was 26, 27 years old. What the hell am I doing in a reformatory?
Yeah.
Why didn't I go to prison?
The point that we want to make is that,
no
and the book makes, is that these guys were not like on the official CIA payroll. They were kids who were recruited from broken families, who were very patriotic, and they were put into these programs and trained at the School of Illusionary Warfare.
Did you ever see the movie The Dirty Dozen?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Took the guys out of prison.
Yeah, same idea. I mean, that was based on a real unit in World War II.
In World War II, they took
the British do this all the time.
They groomed them for this kind of work.
I was a runaway. I was on my way to prison. I was running around in Dallas, Texas, with a motorcycle. I had 34 tickets in 30 days. And and the Dallas Police Department used to chase me on my BSA B-34, and I used to give them the finger as I run away from them. That's where I was as a kid. You know, and you talk about marijuana. That was in the days when, hell, man, we smoked bogeys, shit, like cigars in those days.
Yeah.
Never heard of that. That boy's going to prison.
So those are the guys they recruited.
That's what this Bobby, you know.
For all of our friends and fans, the name of the book is Deep Cover, Shallow Graves. This is fascinating stuff.
I need a copy of this.
A great Christmas gift, boys and girls.
On that, but anyway.
I'm sure it'll be available on Amazon.com or your local bookstore or Barnes and Noble or Costco, wherever you buy your books.
Pre-order already.
Yeah.
Or just check the show notes up above or down below. I have linked all that information in there for you folks. I would have told you that an hour ago, but I was just so intrigued.
But being an author myself, I have to push. I have to for other people because I know how important it is.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not a book writer, you know, but we got some stories in there, don't we, Ralph?
Yeah, it'll be entertaining, that's for sure. Entertaining and eye-opening.
So Ralph is a magnificent writer.
Oh,
These are magnificent stories. Marry the magnificent stories of Tosh and the magnificent writing of Ralph. This has got to be an atomic book.
Don't boost his ego because it's going to cost.
It's
Yeah.
gonna cost me money. So we know that Tosh was supposed to be assassinated and that he's had death threats. Ralph,
Yes.
I want to ask you, have you received any type of kickback, we're going to put it that way,
Yeah.
with the writing of this book?
Not from this book specifically, but I have had I have been questioned by people before. Right.
All right, no, I mean,
I'm a nut.
I mean,
It is.
well, yeah, but a good nut.
Yeah, you have to kinda,
Again, that's what she said when the bed broke. Okay.
yeah, you have to be careful, and you have to kind of know some of the right people. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble.
Right. So I just want to tell our folks,
what
about.
do you guys really do for a living? Do you really work?
Actually, I'm probably one of the few people who's actually sued the CIA and won. And,
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
My
Yay.
co-author
Hey,
for-
Ralph. Go
for
boy.
Jawbreaker
Yeah, man.
sue them to get the book released, and it was a year process, but we succeeded. So
Right. No, well, congratulations on that to both of you.
Right.
To answer your question, Tosh, I am a contractor, but I build houses. I'm not a contractor like you.
I used to build houses in Denver when Denver was building. I made a lot of money and I lost a lot of money. If you're a contractor, you know what I'm saying. I made a lot of money.
And to answer your question, Tosh, I am a jazz singer and an actor and a stand-up comedian and a best-selling author and a host of 3 podcasts. So that's what I do.
All right, great. So you actually got a job.
Well, I have 7 of them. Yes.
yeah, Jeffrey, I think we've crossed paths.
Okay.
I think we have, Ralph. Yes.
Yeah.
Ralph's
I'm a great admirer of your work.
Oh, thank
Ralph's
you.
the one that's creditable here, right?
What's that?
I say Ralph is the only one here that's creditable. Is that right?
How about
Probably.
that? I don't know.
Probably. I mean,
Ralph,
I
is
will
there
s-
anything we haven't covered that you'd like us to talk about before we wrap up?
Well, I would just say that the story continues because after Tosh was building houses in Colorado, they roped him into the whole drugs for weapons exchange that was going on with the Contras in Nicaragua, and he was one of the people first people who exposed that.
Let me explain this, Ralph, real fast.
Yeah.
They came to me. You're a builder, all right, and I had a place called Consolidated Pipelines and also built homes. One day, I got a 9-man crew. I got 4 backhoes, and I got a bunch of dump trucks, and they're all parked out in the parking lot, the building, and there's IRS stamps all over the building. They hit me with an IRS lien of $55,000. Said I did not, whatever it was, but they estimated the last 5 years of my basic salary when I was employed, and then they taxed me accordingly, and I couldn't pay the taxes, and they gave me 90 days to pay them. I didn't do it, and then they locked me out, and 19 guys were thrown out of a job. Then I went and made contact with my friends in Phoenix, found out I could get a job flying. I got out of the CIA, got out of all that kind of stuff. I went to Phoenix and went to work flying, got involved in Iran-Contra, gun and drug running. Now that's how I got re-engaged. I needed money. I needed a job.
He ended up,
when
flying
exactly?
4 tons of cocaine onto U.S. air bases.
So that's the transition from the Cuban era to the Iran-Contra era.
So I want to say this: when exactly is the book being released? Do we have a date?
We don't have an exact date, but it should be November.
In November.
November.
All right. So I'm going to do this right now, and this is something. So for those of you that watch us, know this. Most of our guests don't know, but in 6 seasons, this show has only brought back 3 people. Ever. I don't.
Okay, he's
guests. No offense.
There you go.
There's just so many people that want to be on. It's tough.
Yeah.
Am I freezing up again?
Your picture
the government.
but your voice is good.
Yeah, that's the government. They don't want this out. I'm telling you, man. You think it's funny? This
You
shit
heard
is
all.
listening to us.
Ralph knows this. Every time we talk, they come to my door. Anyway, you heard the dogs barking earlier. I didn't answer.
Right.
All right, Ralph. How many times did that happen? Anyway, whatever. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what I want to do is the book's coming out in November. Stay in touch with me.
Okay.
And in December, like early December, so we maybe a Christmas push.
Okay.
I want the two of you to come back on and let's go part 2. Let's talk about some of this other stuff.
Okay.
If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I also have a new book out called The Great Chinese Art Heist, which is about how Chinese billionaires are stealing artwork from museums in Europe in response as revenge for the Second Opium War and the pillage that the West did to China. Really interesting story if you're interested.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
And I completely concur.
Okay.
You know, and I know my other host, Mr. Holman, would not object to that.
Okay.
Because
You'll give
he'll
him
go
a
back.
chance to ask questions.
Well, yeah, he'll go back and rewatch this because this was the part that he really was interested in. But then he'll find out more and he'll be like, "Yeah, let's bring them back." So,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, it's been a
Hey,
pleasure.
Mark, they call you Jeff?
no,
Me? Yes.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
we have a third co-host. I'm Jeffrey. He's Jeff.
Oh, okay. That's what got me confused. Okay, you're English?
I speak it. No, my people are from Eastern Europe.
Okay. I saw the GEO. So
It's the British spelling, but my people are from Belarus and Ukraine.
Well,
we used to have some dealings with the British about the 1700s, if you remember right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that there was an argument and everything.
Oh crap! So,
I can't-
anyways, folks,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, anyways, we are over time, which is fine by us. But we don't want to keep you guys all night, and we want to save some stories for part 2 because
We are really busy men. I mean, golly, I don't know how to tell you this, but I am so busy.
well, I mean, at 88, it must take you 4 hours just to get out of bed and take a piss.
What do you mean? I can't take a piss now.
Because I was going to say at 53, I know it takes me about an hour.
Hey, I'm doing good. Hey, listen, I got on social media and I got some women out there that want my body.
Wow.
God bless you.
They want me to go get some gift cards and send them some gift cards.
The bigger the better, right?
Oh no!
I think he knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's too
He
funny.
must buy those gift cards too.
Oh my god!
All right.
No,
guys.
I've heard
Yeah.
the stories though. I've
Yeah,
heard the
people want to
stories.
send gift cards to Ralph.
Gift cards to Ralph. He needs them.
No, Ralph is a stud.
Hey,
So
listen, if you seen
We
the
all
shack
call
that
to
you
Lou.
live in, you would send him gift cards. Really, poor guy. I feel for him.
Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up for tonight. So deep cover, shallow graves by these two amazing gentlemen that have entertained you for an hour and like 15 minutes already. But watch for it because in December we're gonna bring them back again for round 2 of some of these stories.
Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
So generally I ask our guests where they can find you on social medias. So let's go, Ralph.
Well, sometimes I post on Facebook myself.
Okay,
I've been
we'll go to
taken off
Tosh.
3 or 4 times, and I've been put back on 3 or 4 times, and so anyway, anyway.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
can find me on Amazon, or my website is ralphpezzulloauthor.com.
Which is also in the show notes, folks. So
Right.
definitely check out both of these gentlemen. Do you believe them? Do you not? I fucking believe them because I've been saying it for years, and we've talked to some others. But
we've
Mr.
got
Jeffrey,
backed
go
up
ahead.
documents on this. So anyway, Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, this hour has certainly been an adventure. I've enjoyed a lot, and I'm sure our friends and fans out there have had a wonderful time. So thank you both for being here. To answer your question, sir, Jeffrey Mark, is it spelled on Facebook? Jeffrey Mark Showbiz on Instagram. I think it's Mr. Jeffrey Mark on LinkedIn. Turn on your electric toothbrush, because besides this wonderful show with these wonderful co-hosts, Ben is also the producer of another show we do on many of these same platforms and stations and places you're watching and listening. It's called Jeffrey Mark Plays Ella, GPE. Every week we play Ella Fitzgerald's music on a theme, and I give you insider stories about all of the music and what was going on in her life at that time. And a sister show to that, Jeffrey Mark Plays Merman. It's going to be debuting soon, and we're going to look into the music of the biggest star on Broadway, Ethel Merman. So look for those two shows. And if Jeff Holman was here, he'd give you his. You miss Jeff, we miss Jeff. And the next time you guys are here, you'll get to meet him, because he's a very special guy.
Give him my condolences about losing his friend.
Yeah, rough.
I will. I will.
I know how rough that is. I had to put Daisy to sleep here about a month ago. So,
And that was his wife.
That was his wife?
I was making a joke. So you said you had to put Daisy to sleep. I said that was his wife.
My wife.
Yeah, and that was the joke.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what he said. So for us, just check out stilltoking.com. You can check us out live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Usually, sometimes we make an exception, but not too often. Want to thank Tosh and Ralph for taking time out of their busy schedules this evening to tell their stories. And they're so interesting. Watch for it in December, folks. Gonna bring them back again.
Hey, co-author, you going to talk to me after this?
Of course I will. Of course.
So,
You guys, it's nice meeting both of you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you both.
Pleasure.
Good to see you, Ralph.
Yeah.
Just hang tight. You'll see the music for the outro, and then the show will be over. You can stay, leave, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
But on a final note, in all seriousness, to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do, so people like us can come up here and do what we do. Stay safe.
Right.
We'll see you next week.
Okay.
We're out of here.
Have a
See you
happy
guys. Take care.
So come on.